Imagine waking up one morning in Seattle, sipping your coffee, gazing out at the snow-capped majesty of Mount Rainier on the horizon. It's a picture-perfect day in the Emerald City. But what if that sleeping giant suddenly stirred, unleashing a torrent of mud and rock that could bury suburbs in minutes? Yeah, it's not just a disaster movie plot, it's a real risk lurking right under our noses. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that's equal parts fascinating and a little unnerving: dormant city volcanoes and the unexpected ways they could wake up. I'm talking about those massive mountains that look peaceful, maybe even extinct, but are actually just hitting the snooze button on their next big rumble. We'll explore what makes them tick, why they're a bigger deal for places like Seattle, Portland, and Anchorage than you might think, and how scientists are racing to keep us one step ahead. Stick around, because by the end, you'll never look at your favorite skyline the same way again. First off, let's break down what a dormant volcano even is, without getting too sciencey. Picture your kitchen pressure cooker. You fill it with stew, crank up the heat, and if the valve's clogged, boom, mess everywhere. Volcanoes are Earth's version of that, but on steroids. Deep underground in the mantle, there's this super hot rock called magma that's like molten cookie dough, full of gases and crystals. When it pushes up through cracks in the crust, it builds pressure until, kaboom, it erupts. An active volcano like Hawaii's Kilauea is always bubbling away, maybe spewing lava shows for tourists. Extinct ones? They're done for good, like the ancient ones in Portland's backyard that haven't stirred in millions of years. But dormant? That's the tricky one. These are volcanoes that haven't erupted in hundreds or thousands of years, long enough that we've forgotten the last fireworks, but they are not out of the game. They could wake up any time, triggered by shifting tectonic plates, fresh magma injections, or even distant earthquakes shaking things loose. Fun fact, there are over 160 potentially hazardous volcanoes in the U.S. alone, according to the USGS. And a bunch of them are these sleepy giants right next to bustling cities. Why? Because we've built our lives around them. Ski resorts, hiking trails, even water supplies from their glaciers. It's like camping next to a bear den and wondering why the rangers keep binoculars handy. Let's start with the poster child, Mount Rainier, towering over Seattle like a watchful parent. This beast is 14,111 feet tall, the tallest in the Cascades, and it's been mostly quiet since its last big eruption around 1,000 years ago. That's dormant status, folks, long enough for Native American legends to weave it into stories of creation and spirits. But don't let the serenity fool you. Rainier's got over 25 glaciers hugging its slopes, and that's where the real danger hides. See, when magma stirs, it can melt that ice in a flash, mixing with ash and rock to create something called a lahar. Think of it as a concrete tsunami, a wall of mud, boulders, and debris racing down the mountain at highway speeds. Imagine this. In 1985, a lahar from Nevada del Ruiz in Colombia buried the town of Armero, killing 23,000 people overnight. Rainier could do something similar, but on a Pacific Northwest scale. Scientists at the USGS model it like a video game simulation, using data from past events to predict paths. One scenario? A lahar barreling down the Puyallup River Valley could hit the suburbs of Orting and Sumner in under an hour, then flood into the Puget Sound lowlands. That's 80,000 people at direct risk, plus highways, power lines, and even parts of Seattle if it keeps going. Crazy, right? And get this. In 2006, a small rockfall triggered a mini lahar that sent muddy waves 11 miles downriver. No eruption needed, just a nudge. Rainier's got an active hydrothermal system too, with steam vents and boiling pools that hint at the heat below. Earthquakes rumble under it regularly, like a giant snoring. If it wakes fully, ash could blanket Seattle 50 miles away, grounding flights at SeaTac and turning your morning commute into a gritty nightmare. But here's the cool part. The city AS got lahar warning sirens, 8 of them blaring like air raid alerts to give folks time to evacuate. Now, shift your gaze south to Portland, Oregon, where Mount Hood plays the same sneaky game. Hood's a bit shorter at 11,149 feet, but no less impressive. It's got that classic snow cone look that draws climbers and skiers year-round. Last eruption? Sometime in the 1790s when Lewis and Clark were just arriving on the scene. Dormant, check. But like Rainier, it's glacier-clad, and those icy caps are a ticking clock. Hood's in the very high threat category from the USGS, right up there with the big boys, because it's smack dab next to a metro area of over 2 million people. What keeps experts up at night? Lahars again, but Hood's got extras. Pyroclastic flows, scorching avalanches of gas and rock hotter than your oven, could race down at 100 miles per hour, incinerating forests and roads. Or imagine dome-building eruptions, where sticky lava piles up like taffy, only to collapse and trigger more mudflows. The Sandy and Clackamas rivers are prime paths, potentially slamming into suburbs like Sandy or even lapping at Portland's edges. Ash fallout? It could pile up inches thick, collapsing roofs, contaminating water, and making breathing a chore. Think 9/11 dust clouds, but volcanic. Fun fact, in the 1860s, a lahar from Hood carved a massive canyon near the town of Government Camp. Today, that's a ski area. Ironic, huh? Scientists monitor it with seismometers buried deep, GPS stations tracking every inch of swelling ground, and even gas sniffers for sneaky sulfur burps. Odds of an eruption in the next 30 years? About 1 in 15, but when it happens, it could disrupt the whole I-5 corridor, from Portland to Vancouver. Heading up to Alaska, we've got Mount Spurr, the sneaky neighbor to Anchorage. This one's about 80 miles west of Alaska's biggest city, looming across Cook Inlet like a grumpy uncle. Spurr's been quiet since 1953 when it threw ash clouds that messed with flights. Dormant, but with a recent wake-up call. In early 2025, it started rumbling with earthquakes and steam plumes, putting the Alaska Volcano Observatory on high alert. Things calmed down by summer, but it reminds us, these guys don't send RSVPs. Spur's risks are more about the fallout than the fireworks. No huge glaciers like the Cascades, but if it erupts, ash plumes could shoot 30,000 feet high, blanketing Anchorage in gray grit. We're talking canceled flights at Ted Stevens International, Anchorage's lifeline for cargo and passengers, potentially stranding the city for days. Ash is like glass shards for engines. It clogs everything from car air filters to hospital ventilators. And for Alaskans, who rely on fresh air and wild foods, contaminated fish or berries could hit hard. Villages closer, like Tyonek, face heavier ashfall, maybe even minor lahars from rain mixing with debris. Fun fact, Spur's 1953 eruption coated cars in Anchorage with ash, but folks just hosed them off and carried on. Resilient bunch up there. Monitoring's key. Satellites watch for thermal spots, and webcams catch any sneaky glows. With climate change melting permafrost, who knows if that'll stir things up more. So, why do these awakenings feel so unexpected? Volcanoes are like introverted friends. They give subtle hints, but we might miss them. Swarms of tiny quakes, ground inflating like rising dough, or increased gas emissions are the warning signs. But dormant ones are masters of disguise. They've been chill for so long we assume they're out. Take Yellowstone. Technically a supervolcano, but its last big blow was 640,000 years ago. It's under a major city. Not really, but its geysers remind us magma's close. Closer to home, the Long Valley caldera in California, near Mammoth Lakes, has been bulging since the 1980s, worrying folks in Fresno and beyond. Even without a full eruption, dormant volcanoes aren't harmless. Fumaroles, those steamy vents, belch carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, which can suffocate animals or taint water. In Mammoth Lakes, they've closed trails because of toxic gas buildup. And lahars, they don't need an eruption. Earthquakes or heavy rain can trigger them from loose volcanic dirt. It's like the volcanoes leaving booby traps. But here's what gives me hope. We're not flying blind. The USGS's Volcano Hazards Program has observatories across the West, packed with tech that would make sci-fi jealous. Seismographs pick up tremors before you feel them, INSAR satellites measure ground deformation down to millimeters, and drone flyovers sniff out gases. Cities like Seattle have lahar inundation maps, color-coded zones showing who's in the splash path, and annual drills. Portland's got evacuation routes marked, and Anchorage runs ashfall exercises. It's like having a smoke detector for the whole mountain. Real-world prep saves lives. Remember the 2018 Kilauea eruption in Hawaii? Warnings let most folks evacuate, minimizing deaths. For our dormant duo, early detection could turn a catastrophe into a close call. Still, challenges remain. Urban sprawl creeps closer, and budget cuts could slow monitoring. Plus, with climate change warming things up, more meltwater means bigger lahars. As we wrap this up, think about it. Millions of us live in the shadow of these ancient powerhouses, building dreams on ground that could shift. Dormant doesn't mean dead, it means patient. Mount Rainier, Hood, Spurr, they're reminders that Earth is alive, dynamic, and full of surprises. But armed with science, we can coexist, turning potential peril into just another chapter in our story. So next time you hike a trail or fly over the Cascades, give a nod to those sleeping giants. What volcano's watching over your city? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, subscribe for more earth-shaking tales, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay curious, stay safe.